How often do you find yourself struggling to gather information to elaborate those main ideas to your speech? In other words, we create a fantasy speech that will earn that passing grade. But in reality, we lack the potential to conduct research or either lack the technique to put it all together. Today, we will be discussing the proper strategies to gather and use supporting materials to achieve a successful speech. By the end of this lecture, you will be able to list 5 potential sources of supporting material, explain 5 logical research processes, list and describe 6 types of supporting material, and ultimately be able to list, explain, and determine the best supporting material to use in your speech.
When starting a speech, knowledge is key. Finding sources of supporting material include many different ingredients, such as personal knowledge, internet, online databases, library holdings, and interviews. Listening, you might find alternate ways to improving your speech. First, you have personal knowledge. You're most likely to write a speech or talk about a speech that you have knowledge or prior experience in. So, it will not only help you retain more information, but make you a better and more comfortable speaker. Next, the internet. This is what most people turn to for information. A good way to find information is typing your subject in a vertical search engine, which will find specific information on your topic. There are many different classifications of sites. Here are a few. Commercial sites, which are usually used by retailers when you pay for something. Then you have information sites, which present facts on specific subjects. Then you have news sites, which are usually online versions of newspapers. And personal sites, which are Facebook, Twitter, and things in that nature. However, you can't trust all the information you get on the internet. You must check the 6 criteria for evaluating information sources, which could be found on page 148 in your textbooks, which include accountability, accuracy, objectivity, timeliness, usability, and diversity. Then we have traditional library holdings. There are many ways to find sourceful information at the library. Card catalogs is an efficient way on locating books on your subject. Some libraries even offer it online, so you can check it before you even get to the library. Other ways include locating periodicals through indexes and locating newspapers through indexes, which give you a current information. Even though you can access this information via internet, it is always helpful to visit your local library to find sourceful information. And the last way to obtain information through a source is interviews. Interviews also always get an in-depth analysis of real-life examples. First, you have to prepare for the interview, which include determining your purpose, which means finding out exactly what you need. Then there is scheduling the interview. Lastly, and most important, is planning your questions, which involves finding as much possible on your subject as you can. Interview questions include closed-ended, which answer yes or no. Then you have open-ended questions, which are questions that can vary, such as questions with long answers and in-depth detail. Finally, there's conducting an interview. You must dress right, take a paper and pen for notes, be ahead of schedule, tell your subject what your purpose is of interview, and try to be clear and confident in your questions. So in conclusion, these are several different ways of taking source materials to help you do your speech.
Today I'm going to be explaining to you the 5 simple steps to using a research strategy. Everyone knows what the library has to offer, such as computers for internet access and online databases, librarians for assistance so they can help you what to research or if you're confused about something, and a little motivation because everyone knows if you're just sitting and studying in your bed, you might want to fall asleep. The first step is developing a preliminary bibliography. A preliminary bibliography is a list of promising resources. This helps you stay organized so you know exactly what resources you're dealing with and you know what to add to your either research paper or your speech. Organization is the key for a successful speech. A good number amount of resources would be about 10 to 12-ish, so you know if you mess up, you can just either take out the mess up or you can keep adding on. It's whatever works best for you. Some ways to keep all of your materials organized is by using bookmarks, which is on your computer. Print out or write it down on note cards, or print out your resources so you can highlight and cross out whatever you want. Some common ways to present your resources are either through APA or MLA format, which is printed out on a Word document. The next step is locating your research. By now you should all have no trouble locating your research because you printed it out or you wrote it down on a bookmark. The next step is accessing the usefulness of your resources. That's knowing all of your resources and what's about them, what they're about, and how to find them. That's what that consists of. Lastly, taking notes and applying them to your speech. You must begin with your best resources that you wrote down. So therefore, use your best resources so it can help you explain to the audience exactly what you're talking about with support behind it. Next, what you can use is statistics, charts, and illustrations to help explain to your audience exactly what you're talking about. If you happen to write down your researches verbatim from the research, make sure you write in parentheses so you don't get in trouble for plagiarizing. No one wants to get in trouble for plagiarizing. And next, we'll be taking my next speaker, Tyler Jones.
Okay, the next section in this chapter is supporting materials. There are 6 types of supporting materials. The first type is illustrations. There are 3 types of illustrations. The first is a brief illustration, which is no longer than a sentence or 2. The second type is an extended illustration, which ranges from 2 to 3 sentences, which resembles more of a story or an anecdote, but is used to draw the audience's attention. The type of illustration is the hypothetical illustration. This is when a speaker uses a what-if scenario or imagine-if scenario, which draws the audience to use more of their own imagination to get involved into the speech. The second type of supporting materials are descriptions and explanations. Descriptions are used to paint a mental picture for the audience so they can get a better understanding of what you're saying. An explanation explains how something you're saying works. The key to using descriptions and explanations effectively are to keep them short and brief. Long, drawn-out explanations tend to lose the audience's interest and make your speech boring. This brings us to our third type of supporting materials, definitions. Definitions are used to explain a term used within your speech that the audience may not understand and explain how the term is applied in the context that you're using it. Definitions are not good or overused because they disrupt the flow of the speech, but they're helpful to use when you come across a term that the audience may not understand. Within definitions, there are 2 types of definitions. There's definitions by classification, which puts a word under a specific class or group that it may fall under, and then there are operational definitions, which shows how something works. Our fourth type of supporting material are analogies. Analogies are a comparison that bring out similarities in 2 different things. There are 2 types of analogies. There are figurative analogies, which use 2 different things that have one thing in common that brings them together. And then there are literal analogies, which use 2 similar things to bring together the similarities of the 2. Fifth type of supporting material are statistics. Statistics are helpful because statistics are well respected by everybody. When you hear statistic, it gives the source credibility, and they're irrefutable. This type of supporting materials are opinions. Opinions are used to put your own personal attitude on the subject that you're speaking about. There are a couple of types of opinions. The first type is a lay opinion. A lay opinion is a non-expert testimony, but uses first-hand experience from maybe yourself or a friend. The second type of opinion is a literary quotation, which is an opinion or a quote grabbed from a well-known author. These are used because they're credible and give life to any claims that you may say.
Throughout this lecture, you were bombarded with a plethora of information on how to make your speech way better, such as 6 criteria for evaluating a website, which is accountability, accuracy, objectivity, timelessness, usability, and diversity. Then your mind was flooded with the guidelines for using each of these 6 types of supporting materials effectively. Now, I know you may wonder, well, how can I choose which one to use? Well, I'm going to help clear that doubt by teaching you these following considerations. First, magnitude. Bigger is better. The more statistics you use, the more convincing they are. Your audience, you have a command over your audience and they believe what you say. Next is proximity. The best supporting material are the ones that are relevant to your listeners. Next is concreteness. The more concrete your statistics are and examples are, the better your speech. Then there's variety. Mix it up. Add illustrations, opinions, definitions, statistics are way more interesting when you add it to your speech. It's not cut and dry, but it has flavor. Why have a hamburger dry when you have pickles, lettuce, tomatoes, and condiments? It makes your speeches way better. Next, there's humor. Audience appreciate a little bit of humor, but know when to use the humor. Humor is not appropriate if your speech is somber or serious. Then there's suitability. Your final decision will be what's suitable to you, the audience, and the occasion. In summation, this lecture covered a variety of strategies that can be used when gathering and supporting material for your speeches. Sources such as the internet, library databases, conducting and organizing your research, and expansion on all types of supporting material that you can use to embellish your speech. Hopefully, you have learned new ways to add interest, support, and organize materials to your speech. Knowing 5 supporting materials, 5 logical research, 6 types of supporting material makes a difference between an okay speech and a successful one.